Earlier this year, I was talking with a friend of mine in town, and he said, "Hey, did you hear about Hannah?" To which I probably replied, "Hannah who?" He said, "Hannah from the gym." I said, "Oh, yeah, I gotcha." Hannah and I have a lot of mutual friends, and I knew who she was, but we had never met. And honestly, I don't know if she knew who I was at the time or not. My friend went on to tell me what happened, and I just listened in awe, probably some level of disbelief. It was hard to wrap my head around what had taken place, and harder still to imagine what was to come for Hannah in the days ahead. I knew pretty quickly that I wanted to have her on the podcast because regardless of how she responded to the events that transpired, I trusted that the conversation would be real and authentic. And I'm here for real and authentic. It did, however, seem like the right thing to do to give Hannah a good bit of time. Some time to sort through a whole lot of things that needed sorting out before I made that request. So I waited. I sent Hannah a message in early September, I think, introducing myself and asking if she'd be willing to come on the podcast. She responded pretty quickly that she'd be happy to. So we kept in touch and finally sat down last week to have a conversation. In this episode, you'll hear from Hannah Nabors, who experienced what can only be described as a life-altering tragedy, one that she could never have anticipated or prepared for. In the blink of an eye, she had to come to terms with some things, with a lot of things, and she had to decide how she was going to respond. And then she had to make good on her decision over and over again, day after day. In short order, that's exactly what she did. Rather, that's exactly what she is doing. Today, you will hear Hannah's story. But first, welcome to the Everyday Grit Podcast. Conversations to help you think critically, live abundantly, and endure the everyday. I'm your host, Nathan Hicks, and I'm very glad that you're here. Before we get into the episode, let's grab some feedback. Sadly, there are no new reviews. Someone out there could remedy that very easily and quickly. But for now, let's grab feedback. There was a lot of good feedback from the interview with Russ. Christian wrote, finished the episode with Russ last night. I really liked the in-person format. Thanks for doing that. I learned a lot about his life. That dude made a big impact on me when I was a 16-year-old on a summit course. John shot me a message and said, of all the people I haven't met, I just might like Russ the most. I think that's a fair assessment, John. Jen sent me an email and said, Russ's photos have helped keep the flame of adventure flickering inside me as I live in this present posture of work, caretaking, and growth back home with my father and granddaughter. I also appreciate the mindset of not being interested in following the traditional life route, and the lifelong friendship between the two of you added a wonderful dynamic to the conversation. Mutual respect and affection permeated the discussion, and I do hope you will share more conversations with Russ on your podcast. Russ has some great stories. There's some that I probably couldn't get him to share, but either way, he's got lots to tell. And then finally, Jeremy, who was the founder and director of International Mountain Leadership Institute, the organization Russ referenced working for in northern India, added some color to the story about getting a dead horse out of a cabin. He wrote, yes, trying to move a dead horse out of a cabin, which it had put into to protect it from bear attacks while we slept outside in tents. Definitely a unique memory that's burned in. I still remember that as one of the most beautiful valleys I've ever seen. If you haven't already, check out episode 25, The Road Less Traveled with Russ Taylor. All right, without any further delay, let's get into the conversation with Hannah. Here you go. Enjoy. Let's see. Okay, I think we're all set. Hannah Nabors, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We are going to get into, I'm not going to tell people what we're going to get into.
Okay.
just yet. But to start us off, maybe set the stage a little bit, would you just tell a little bit about who you are and your upbringing, and just tell us about yourself?
Okay. I grew up here in Rome, Georgia. I went to college at the University of Georgia, and I met my husband, Josh. We've been married for almost 16 years. I was in Athens, and he was coaching baseball at Jefferson High School. So we were at the same FCA retreat. Like, coaches brought their teams, and I was there. So we met there, and we moved back to Rome in 2014 after our first child. And he and I are both teachers. He's a PE teacher. He teaches middle school PE at Emerchi, and I am a fourth grade special education teacher. Now, when we first got married, I was a child life specialist. But after a few years of him having the summer off and me going to work at the hospital, I decided to move into teaching. But we have 2 boys, and Kate is 12. Cole just turned 9. And I coach assistant high school cross country and head middle school girls soccer. And he is assistant high school basketball for the boys and baseball at Armourgy as well.
So you guys are going all different directions.
Right.
All year.
Because our children, of course, have to do their own things as well.
Right.
So, yes.
What was it that you were doing before teaching with a child, or not a child? What was it called?
I was a child life specialist. So anytime kids came, like Children's Healthcare of Atlanta is the closest one that has them. But when kids come into the hospital, in whichever part, like I loved the ER personally, or the OR, but it's our job to kind of relay to the kids, like, this is what's happening. This is what the procedure is going to be, but do it in a non-threatening developmental way. And then if they're inpatient, like, we also tend to their development while they're inpatient. So making sure that they have the opportunities to continue to develop as children, both, mentally, physically, whatnot, while they're there. And so, in the ER, you never know what's going to come in. And so anything could come in, and it might be like distracting them while they're getting an IV placed. It might be having to explain to a child, like, this is the surgery you're fixing to have with Winnie the Pooh, and he also has like an IV line or whatnot. So I liked it because there was a lot of variety, but I just had a heart for just children with special needs. And medical needs is kind of what landed me there, but developmental needs is where I am now.
Was it, so then when you transition to teaching, were you like, I'm definitely going to do special ed?
Oh yes. 100%. Yeah. And
then are you like in a full inclusion classroom now? What's your day-to-day look like with them?
I originally was an emotional behavior disorders teacher in Rome City for when we first moved here for the first 3 years. And then when I got pregnant with our second son, I moved into inclusion and resource. So both I push into the general ed classes, but then I also have children in classes of my own.
Okay, cool. One of the, probably the first time I ever heard your name, Jeff Holloway and I were training to run the 50-mile race. So we do our long runs together. And somewhere along the way, I'll tell him, Jeff, he said, do you know who Hannah Nabors is? I said, no. He said, well, my daughter loves Hannah, and Hannah is fast. And so Sarah was challenging him, basically a run that you had done. She was like, Dad, can you run that fast? And so that was the first time I ever heard your name was associated with not just running, but that you loved running and that you were really fast at running.
That's so fun. I ran cross country in high school, and I played basketball and did soccer. I was offered a scholarship to run at Reinhardt, and I took it initially, but by the end of the summer, I turned it down because I felt like for me, it would make running more of a job and less of something I love to have to do it at that level. So when I was in college, I really started leaning in towards half marathons and marathons because I still love to run. And when we moved to Rome, it just so happened that Rome City was looking for a cross-country coach, and I love it so much. Initially, like just being paid to run when I already love to run, like run with children, but I really, really love it. And I think, it is a skill that carries you through your entire life. Like, you can run in high school, you can run as an adult, you can run however old you get. And so there's a running group of us, and we have run together at 4:30 in the morning, 2 or 3 times a week for the last 7 years.
Really?
And that is incredible, because otherwise I don't know that we all would know each other. We all are in very different professions, family lives, but it's just something we love. And what's said in the dark stays in the dark, right. And we hold each other accountable. And so a big reason why I continue to love running is that group.
How did you all find one another? You were all just out at 4:30 one morning.
There used to be a group at the YMCA. Well, there may still be. And it was a bigger group. And so initially I met a few of the runners there. And then after Cole was born, I was kind of coming back into it, but I didn't really know anybody. And so I don't know if you're on Strava, but if you're on Strava, every now and then it'll be like, well, this person also runs this a lot, or this person also ran that route. And so there were 3 of them that it said, hey, these people also ran that route. And so I looked, and it was like similar pace. And so I messaged them, and I was like, can I come, please? Can I come ride with you? And they said yes. And so they had kind of evolved the same way. Like, people had kind of jumped in. And so one of the girls moved away. But over the last couple of years, it's ebbed and flowed. We've added 3 others. And so there's 6 of us now. But then there are so many other running pods in Rome. Like, you can then kind of merge. Like, there are other groups that you'll be like, okay, well, it didn't work out for me to go on Tuesday with this group. So like, hey, can I jump in on your Wednesday? I've also been known to like, just see like anybody out there and be like, can I come over with you? Especially in the morning, like, because I just want to be safe in numbers. But Rome has an amazing running community that just keeps it alive. If
you get up before the sun.
Right. Yes. Yeah, Step 1 is to get up before the sun. And even if it was 68 yesterday and then all of a sudden it's 32 and snowing,
you never know.
Still going to go.
Yeah. So you show up to like Strava buddies, and you just show up. Was the first run is like, all right, I have to beat them.
It was like, I have to stay with them. Yeah. But like, now we have all evolved in that, some of us are like, I'm going to run crazy distances. And some of us are like, no, I have a hard stop at 6.
Okay.
And some of us are like, I'll start at 4:15. And some of us are like, no, I will not arrive before 5 a.m. And so we all kind of have picked our own interesting little groups. And so when we did the Chad's run, the last one, the Mountain Mama Farms run, like, there was only one in the group that would do it with me. And I was like, anyone want to run for 4 hours? Anyone? But it's been really beautiful, because no matter what you're looking for in the run, whether it's a workout or intervals or distance, like, there's always a match. And it just is so good to just like bare your soul before work, get it all out, like, have that support. So
nice. What you've alluded to it, but aside from the camaraderie and obviously the fitness, what does it do to you or for you as far as like just mental and emotional regulation? And
I am a better person because I run. It is my outlet. Okay. We all have outlets, like healthy or unhealthy, as I've learned, but I'm a better person when I run. I can clear my head. A lot of times, like, I can solve problems. Like, I just wish there was like some invention, like when I'm on a run and I think of the solution, like I could just write it down before I forget. But I think it just like regulates my mood. I go into the day feeling positive, feeling accomplished. And there have been a number of times where, my husband has been like, but have you run?
Right.
No. Okay. I'm going to need you to go.
Yeah. I'll take the boys and go run.
Yeah. So everybody has their outlets. It might be going to the gym. It might be walking. It might be, like a cup of decaf at night. I don't know. Yeah. But that one is mine.
Nice. We'll shift hard. And there have been events this past year that have made running more difficult and where you have had some other challenges.
Yes.
And if my facts are correct, February 24th of this year, your world changed abruptly and significantly.
Yes.
So take us back to that morning and just kind of walk us through what happened.
Okay, so I got up at 4:30 that morning. It was an off morning, so I was by myself. And I went for a 5-mile run. And I came home, was getting ready for work. We were getting ready to leave. My husband and my oldest ride to school together because they're both at the high school campus. And so my youngest Cole and he rides with me to the elementary. And he came down the stairs and his hair was going in every direction, which usually is not something I'm usually like, pick my battles, carry on. But for whatever reason that morning, I was like, we can't go back. You're gonna have to go upstairs, brush your hair. So we took an extra 5 minutes that like haunted me in the beginning for a long time. So he brushes his hair, we come down, we get in the car, and Cole got in his car seat wearing his book bag. I'm not sure why. I think maybe we were just in a rush, but so he gets in his booster, hits his seatbelt. And so on our way to school, my soccer team had a game that afternoon, and we were talking about that. We typically am like singing along to whatever our jam is at the current time. And so right about as we were passing Armurchie High School, I saw a white car run a stop sign and hit the back of a truck that was in the turning lane.
Okay.
And I knew
the truck was facing you.
Yes. So I knew we were going to make impact, and there was a car on our right, so I wasn't going right. Well, the truck was in the left lane, so I couldn't go left. And so I remembered this distinct moment of like, do I say something to Cole or not? And I didn't, because I thought this car is going to stop and we're just going to like we're going to hit it, but we're just going to clip it.
Right.
It's going to be fine. But that's not what happened. I think the truck kept going, and the timing of it meant that like within seconds we were T-boned right at the driver's side, right at my side of the car. And I remember just like my heart sank, because as a parent, like I just felt like I can't protect my child. What's happening? And I knew that I couldn't turn around or check until the car stopped, because when we were hit, we did like 360 in the air. And then when we landed, we hit a culvert and then ended up sliding. And so we landed with it was essentially me in the asphalt. Like the window was gone, everything was gone, and our car was on the side. And the next thing I remember, I heard this like whimpering from behind me, and I opened my eyes. And I immediately turned to look at Cole, and he was like, "Mommy, you're bleeding." And I was like, it's okay, buddy. Like, I think I just, in life, I'm the one like always like, it's okay. So I just kept saying, "It's okay, buddy. It's okay. It's okay, buddy. It's okay." This lady came up, and I could hear her say, "Who's in the car?" Which all the airbags had deployed. So it was like a little bit being underwater. And I just kept saying like, "My son, my son, my son." And so this man, climbed up on the side of my car, and I heard him hollering to cover your eyes, because there were people at Old Timers, the restaurant right there, including a state trooper and an ambulance. So people were there quickly. And so he did. I said, "Cole, cover your eyes." And he broke Cole's window and like dropped down into my vehicle like Spider-Man, and was able to untangle Cole, because Cole was essentially hanging in like this wrap of his seatbelt and his book bag. So he untangled Cole and was able to like lift him out to Good Samaritans. And Cole was out within, 5 minutes probably, and did not have one scratch, not one. Like several people like looked over him, no scratches. So
was he on the high side then?
He was on the high side, yeah. So he was hanging. And so they sat him on a stretcher, but it was within my eyes view. And so I was like, okay, I know he's okay. And I saw a gentleman come and put his arm around him and like talk to him. Well, that gentleman is the dad of one of my cross country runners. Okay. So I didn't know what he was saying, but I knew I knew that he was a believer. Like, I love their family. And so it brought me comfort to know like Cole is safe. He's with somebody. And so he got out, and I looked in the rearview mirror, like I had a huge gash which was, Cole said, "Mommy, you're bleeding." Like blood was all down my face. And so I was waiting. And so I just I was very calm. I don't know. And I was like, okay, well, there's my school ID. Like, I'll need that. Like, I almost was just like cleaning around, because I was pinned between the dash, the console, and my seat. So the only thing I could move was my arms. Okay. And so I was moving them. And eventually the emergency crews got there, and they had to cut the top of my car off in order to get to me. So that was step one. And then it was a lot of problem solving. How are we going to get out? Now, I did not cry. I did not scream. I was very even keel, and I can only attribute it to the Lord. And, we spend so many times like praying for peace that surpasses understanding, but like legitimately like lived out. So Advent gets there, and they're like, "Hey, we're so-and-so from Advent." I was like, "Oh, hi." I was like, "Unfortunately, my insurance doesn't cover you, so I'm happy to wait for Adrian."
Wrong hospital showed up.
Yeah, but the firefighters, emergency crews, we were all trying to problem solve. And eventually we decided to wrap this chain like around like where my legs were, kind of around some of the dash, and it hooked to something. I think it must have been another car. I'm not sure, but because they would say okay, and they would start to pull. Well, it was pulling the vehicle, so then we had to put 2 stoppers under the car. But eventually, that effort was able to pull it just enough for me to slide my right leg out, and so my right leg had like one deep gash. But I was like, okay, I got this, because I was trying to move my toes the whole time, even though I couldn't see them. And so I thought I could. And so my right leg comes out. I'm like, oh, I got this. I was like, I'm going to be at Atrium, this afternoon. Like, maybe I've broken my left leg. It's in excruciating pain, but it's not going to be a deal. And so we tried the jaws of life, like essentially in my laps. Like, that didn't work. And ultimately they decided, okay, let's go in through the bottom. Let's try to see what we can see from the bottom. So when they were able to get a hole through the bottom, was when they were really able to tell, like, the brake pedal, the gas pedal, emergency brake, my leg were just very entwined. And so it took 2 hours. I was stuck in the car for 2 hours. Part of that was just the difficulty of the positioning, but part of that was an effort to keep me from bleeding out and to try and give me a chance of saving my leg. So eventually they had moved enough that I could see my foot, which my shoe was still on. And so I went to move my foot and my shoe didn't move. And I remember saying, is my leg still attached? And one of them was like, well, for now. And so he eventually said, okay, to get you out, I'm going to have to push your foot from the bottom. Like, I'm going to have to push it up from the bottom. He's like, this is really, really going to hurt. And I was like, okay. Like, the chaplain was behind me. I was like, I need you to put my arm, like your arms under mine. And so by that point I had some pain medicine. So, but he pushed my foot out and I was able to get out, and I immediately shut my eyes. And initially I regretted that because I just didn't know. But like my therapist had said, well, your brain was trying to understand. And that was the only thing you had control over. Like, you can't stop hearing, you can't stop. So I closed my eyes and I could feel them putting the tourniquet on my leg. And I remember telling my mom, the last thing I said to her was just like, fight for my leg. Because in the 90s, this movie came out on it might not have been Lifetime, it might have been ABC, but it was called A Child's Wish. And it had John Ritter. And it was about this girl who had cancer and eventually lost her leg to the disease. And it told the story of how FMLA came to be. But I had seen it as a kid. And so growing up, my biggest fear was losing my leg. It wasn't spiders or snakes. So when they put the tourniquet on, I was like, nope, like I know. And so we rode to Atrium. And I can remember a few familiar faces. Again, I just very much was like keeping my eyes closed, trying to shut down. And I remember Dr. Jackson saying, hey, like, we're going to have to send you on. Do you want to go to Grady or do you want to go to Erlanger? And I didn't know anything about Erlanger, but I was like, Erlanger, please. And so now that ambulance ride was terrible. I was in so much pain, and I kept asking, like, how much longer? When are we going to be there? And the EMT kept saying, oh, it's just this turn. It's just this turn. And eventually I was like, ma'am, you're lying. Like, it's been just this turn for a long time. So we got there, and I can remember like glimpses of like meeting the surgeon, being in the ER, and I could feel them like casting my leg. And I remember thinking, like, why are we casting my leg if like you're taking me to the OR? Because I really had no idea what my injuries were, but I knew I had a leg injury. And so the next thing I knew, I woke up Monday night, and my family kind of told me the circumstances of the wreck, that the driver of the white car that had caused it was high on drugs. She was actively on probation for drugs. She had drugs on her person, and she wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and she ran the stop sign. And my leg was I still had a leg at this point. There was lots of metal. So they had called my husband in the middle of the first surgery and said, hey, this looks really, really bad. We can go ahead and take it, or we can, try to save it. And Josh, just knowing my heart, was like, no, like, you have to try to save it. You have to give her a chance. And I'm so thankful for that, because it gave me some time to wrap my head around it. So they told me, first of all, your leg, like lots of metal to attach toes, everything. And then my bladder and kidneys were bruised. Of course, I had numerous lacerations. Like there was still glass and dirt in my hair. And I had broken 2 bones in my face. And then, of course, had black eyes and whatnot from the airbags. And so I just kind of shut down for the night.
Yeah.
Fell asleep. Over the next 2 days, the plastics team, trauma team, ortho, I think they all were trying to warm me up to the idea that like you're probably not going to keep your leg.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, let me talk to somebody. Like, can you bring me somebody that has, lost their leg? And so I talked to him, and then my best friend came up to visit, and I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And she was like, we're going to handle this. Like, this isn't going to be the last hard thing we face. And we've faced hard things before. We're going to handle this. And of course I had a conversation with my husband, and I was like, if this happens, but ultimately, I refused to make the decision. So I told them that I wanted them to write. I would only sign if they would write that when we go in, either, the leg is viable, it's miraculous, we're able to keep it, or it's not, and we have to lose it. And so I think because that was my fear, like I didn't want to make that decision because I knew I would always be like, regardless. What if? But going in, I think I knew that was probably going to be the outcome. And so I told my mom, I said, when I come back, no matter what, like I want every light on. I want the blinds open. I only want yellow flowers. Nobody comes in here to cry. Like this, whatever happens. We've got to move on from that. And so sure enough, when I woke up around noon on that Thursday, like my leg was gone.
You were so when you were trapped in the car, I mean, did you start to get a feel that early of like the injuries to the leg are bad enough that this is of concern?
Yeah. So initially when I was telling Cole, like, it's okay, buddy, it's okay. When he woke me up, my first reaction was to try to push the dash off because my left leg was in so much pain. And then I realized like there was nothing I could do. And so thank goodness, when Atrium did arrive, they said, if we can get an arm, like we can get an IV. And I was like, oh, you can get an arm. And so I think that is kind of what helped me, make it through that 2 hours, which it didn't seem like 2 hours to me, but I think it's because I was just constantly like trying to understand, trying to help, trying to figure out a solution. And Josh eventually did come. I handed my phone. I didn't realize it was in my lap, but I had handed it to an EMT thinking, we all put in like ice, whatever, or case manager. Well, Cole somebody had given him a phone and he was playing it, and he eventually turned around to Adam, the guy that was there, and said, hey, but like, where's my dad? And that's when they realized like they had not called anybody. But he did come, and I could see him out when I could see Cole too. And I think that's part of what kept me calm too. But no, it was excruciating pain. And that's why I think I was trying to move my toes and be like, okay, can I still move my toes? Right. So it's still circulating.
Find some hope.
Yeah.
That seems remarkable to say going into surgery where, one, I would say that's not most kids' lifelong fear. I mean,
I know.
To have that, and then to be going in surgery where that's a likelihood to say to your mom, regardless, this is how I want to start on the other side of this. Right. I mean, do you have, where does that come from?
I have always been a glass half full person. And I think I like to pretend that I'm allergic to negative things. Like I just don't have a lot of space for that. I prefer to see the sunrise. And I also am a bit of a bootstrapper that when things happen, my first reaction is like, all right, this is what we're doing. Like this is how we're going to fix it. This is kind of how we're going to go into it. But the very last thing I wanted was to wake up and people be around me and be sad and be crying, because that wasn't going to help me be able to conquer this. So that Thursday night, I demanded to get into a wheelchair because I had been in this ICU room, this tiny, so tiny, for 4 days. Like I just needed space. And so I did. And my mom rolled me out, and I asked her to push me up to a window, and I could look out over Chattanooga, and I asked her to leave me for a second. And she took a picture, which is so meaningful to me that she thought to take that, because as I sat there, I thought, okay, like this goes one of two ways. This breaks me or it makes me. And for whatever reason, I just imagined Cade, my oldest, in college, and he goes out on a date with a girl and she says, hey, tell me about your family. And either Cade was going to say, well, when I was 12, my mom and brother were in a terrible accident and it tore our family apart. My mom was never the same and it's just been rough for all these years. Or he was going to say, this happened, but our family was stronger for it. We learned resilience. We learned perseverance. And I just thought, that's what we got to do. And so that was like really the turning point for me. Like when I went back to my room, I was like, okay, like we have to fight. We have we have to change the narrative here. This will not affect my family's future. So.
Yeah, that's quick. I mean, it's like,
I know, but that's what,
that's all. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's remarkable. And that time kind of by yourself was like a very quick coming to terms with this is my new reality. And
I wouldn't let anybody come visit, and the TV was broken.
Oh.
And so if I wasn't asleep on pain medicine, it was just me and my thoughts, which luckily I was beside the helipad. And so it would land and I would be like, okay, well, I'm more stable than that person is right now. Or, I could watch it kind of come in and come out, but like I was forced to go ahead and start figuring it out because what else was I doing?
Right.
Yeah.
What was I can only imagine how surreal. What's it like to come out of surgery and your leg's not there?
Well, honestly, part of it was relief because my leg was so heavy with all of that metal and I couldn't move it. And it was like up on a pavilion, or not a pavilion, but it was like up on pillows and it was very uncomfortable. So the first part of it was like relief, like, okay, it's, but then it wasn't it was heartbreaking to me to like pull the covers back, but it wasn't as devastating as I thought it would be. And I think I owe a lot of that to like the prayers of this community. Like part of the reason I wouldn't go in with making the decision was because I knew that so many people were praying and I was like, God, like could, like this would be, people are watching, like this would be, and so I think that those prayers are part of, it didn't turn out that way, obviously.
Right.
But I think that those prayers are a large part of the way that I just was able to kind of wrap my head around it from the beginning. And honestly, I was ready to go home. Like I missed my boys, and Atrium called when I was there and was like, hey, we've got such good news. Like we have a spot open in our inpatient rehab. And I was like, very nicely, like absolutely not goodbye. No more time in the hospital, no more time away from my kids. So, jaunting and heartbreaking, but doable.
Okay. So that was, the accident happened on a Monday. This was Thursday. And then when were you able to come home?
I came home on Monday.
Okay. And then there's there's the acceptance of the reality, and then I would imagine Monday comes and there's a hard shift to what does this new reality look like?
Well, I will openly say I was very medicated for the ride home because how was I going to get back in a car?
Right.
And not just drive 20 minutes, but and then when I came home, I had to move in with my mom because our house was not accessible there. Everything was upstairs except for like the kitchen, the living room, dining room. And there was only like a half bath downstairs. So in that half bath, the door was tiny. Like my wheelchair couldn't get it through. Yeah. And so I had to live with my mom for, the first 6 to 8 weeks. And it was very, I want to say it was like very scary coming home because you're kind of like leaving this world of the hospital. And I couldn't sit, I couldn't sleep. In hindsight, it's fight or flight, but I would have to like tie my wrists up in rope and like sleep in this like pseudo fetal position, just that my body just couldn't relax. Even just sitting, there was no way. Like I needed my good leg up in a ball. Like it really wasn't until I started therapy that I could even just like relax. And so I watched a lot of March Madness because I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
I was on all this medicine. I hated nighttime. The world goes to sleep. I'm miserable. I can't. So I watched a lot of March Madness, like really thankful for that. Cause you know, it's like on
all
the time. Yeah.
Would you try to be in a bed at night at all, or just in another chair?
So I didn't sleep in a bed, probably for the first 3 weeks. Like I have to go back and look at my journal, but I tried and I wasn't comfortable. And I tried sleeping in a recliner. Ultimately I slept in, you know, they're on patios and they're like, it's like this like lounger kind of thing, it folds. You can lean back and it kicks the legs back. So we brought one of those in the living room. And so I slept in a patio chair in the living room. As best I could, 2 to 4 hours a night.
Man. And then during the day, were you trying to sleep at all? I mean, what was in the waking hour? Well, everyone else's waking hours. So
during the day, a lot of people wanted to come and visit, but I just wasn't comfortable because my face was swollen and bruised. And the cast around my leg was so huge. I wouldn't even let the boys see it because I didn't want them to think that now mom has this elephantitis sized leg. And I was very uncomfortable with just how I looked, but I wanted to get the show on the road. I wanted to. And so I had somebody come and do a lymphatic massage, which was amazing. I had started therapy, and I tried acupuncture, but as soon as I could, I remember the first day I could get my clothes on and brush my teeth by myself was huge. And so as soon as I could do that, I was like, well, we're taking this wheelchair on the road. So my mom lives in this tiny neighborhood. And so there was this sidewalk block. And so I would just sit in that wheelchair and just roll myself around the block, just to get out and just to have some fresh air and some activity. And when they sent me home, they said, here are your prescriptions. Good luck, go team. Didn't tell me anything. Oh, wow. And so I also spent a lot of time on Instagram, which gets a bad rap, but I found this mom in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she has 2 kids. She's a runner. She does Orange Theory. And I just reached out to her on a whim, and I was like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. This happened. She called me right away. Her name's Jen, and I have never met her, but she has been my saving grace. She and I talk regularly, and she was like, do this, ask for this, go here. Didn't hesitate to reach out. And she said, that was me 7 years ago, and I didn't have a me. And I promised myself, if anybody reached out, I'd be there. And she sure has. And so I also then would get on Instagram and put in Paralympian Georgia, and it brought up Jared Wallace, who lives in Athens and is a Paralympian in the long jump and the 100 meter. Okay. And I reached out to him too, and he did the same thing. He got right back to me. He's like, let's set up a phone call. And so those 2 really helped me know, okay, this is how I need to get started with physical therapy. This is, I need to reach out. This is how I need to reach out to a prostate test. Really kind of held my hand in how to get all of that moving, because I even had to fight them to let me move to Rock here for ortho instead of because I didn't want to be in a car. I didn't want to travel to Chattanooga. So that was big when they would let me be here. And so those 2 really kind of got the ball rolling for me in a lot of ways. And I asked Jared, in that first phone call, I was like, okay, how do we get a running leg? He was like, ma'am, you still have stitches in your leg. I understand. I'm just making plans for the future. Right. Yeah.
So there was no advocate that said, here are all the pieces that you're going to have to manage. No. Here's the sequence. It was just,
yes. And so home. Jared is starting a nonprofit. It's called the Rival Foundation. They have a space, getting ready to break ground, but that is the idea behind it. And there's also not a support group here, in Rome, which is interesting because, we do have 2 hospital systems. But yeah, I really didn't have anybody to hold my hand through it without those 2. And so huge help. But if you had told me dyeing my hair purple would help the healing process, I'd have done it.
Yeah, sure. Is there even, when you go to either Rock or the first physical therapist, does their prescription, the prescription they got from, I guess, Erlanger, is it even specific to this is what you need to do with an amputee, or are they just figuring it out? So the prescriptions
were just for the medications. Okay. And that was even different because there were some that you couldn't take across state lines. It was very headachy. But really Dr. Dunn at Rock, the first time I could go and see him was okay, this is what we're going to do. And he was a big help to me too. And once I could get in with him and getting that ball rolling and getting physical therapy started. But yes, so he wrote the prescription for physical therapy.
That's wild.
Yeah, it is. It's wild.
So then I guess if you think of phases, now you're in a phase where you can get out of the house.
Yes. And
the ball is starting to roll in all of these different directions. How do you begin to manage that? Is sleep any better?
There are some big days that stick in my memory. The day I learned to crawl was huge. Lindsay Bellcase had come out to my house before I could even get to physical therapy, had showed me some exercises. So by the time, rock physical therapy had worked with my legs, I was ready to go. So the day I could crawl stuck in my head. Of course, the first day I got my prosthetic, which was an 8-week waiting process. And that was miserable to be so active and then to be confined to this wheelchair. And then I had just dreamed of being able to hug both my boys standing up. So that's the first thing I wanted to do with my prosthetic. But the day on the same day, I ran a load of laundry and unloaded the dishwasher, sat on the floor and cried, just so thankful, just these menial tasks. And so all along the journey, there've been little things that just mean the world to me. The first day I could put my shoes on and go outside and walk and have an exercise. And so, one of the cruelest phrases to me right now is, it just takes time. I hate that. I don't want anything to take time, but everything in this journey has taken time, everything. And so I've had to learn that, and I've had to learn to be patient. The last thing I want to do is anything that will make me take a step back. So I want to keep moving forward. But it's day by day, step by step. We actually snuck away to Colorado at the 6-week mark. Yeah. And I was on crutches, and it was the boys' spring break. And I was like, they deserve to do something. And Josh wasn't coaching baseball because of the accident, so he rarely has spring break. And so I have a friend that lives in Colorado, and she's a family medicine doctor, and she was like, listen, if you can come out here, I'll take care of you. I'll make sure you have what you need. We won't, and so we did, and I will never go through the airport in a wheelchair again. I was very petrified that my children would be embarrassed. They were not. They were happy to push me through the wheelchair. We went to the zoo in Colorado. They pushed me through, and in Colorado in the crutches, I was like, it is beautiful. I want to run. I want to bike. I want to do something. Yeah. And I was like, we're going to hike. And Josh was like, no, ma'am.
And this is pre-prosthetic.
Yeah. This was just crutches. This was at the 6-week mark, which even Dr. Dunn, I was like, please, I had to go back and see him to make sure he'd clear me. And so my friend Jody was with me, and the boys' course went ahead, but I just crutched myself up that hike and then crutched myself right back down. And so every time I could do something, it spurred on the next thing. Oh, I can do this, then I can do this. So.
Did you ever feel a tension in, I could do that, but that was so hard versus what I used to be capable of? Was it ever not wanting to compare, but it kind of being hard to avoid? 100%. For the longest, I kind of lived on this, on the top of the surface. And if one thing happened, maybe I was expecting some of the melon didn't come, I'd kind of dip. And if one more thing happened, even just we wanted to go to Las Palmas and ended up it would tank me. Yeah. And I would end up crying myself to sleep. It was a lot of frustration. It was a lot of guilt. I felt guilt that my boys were going to have a mom that was different, and looked different, which, over time I realized everybody's mom is different. You can't see it, right? Not everybody's, but you can. And just seeing the way they've reacted has just been beautiful. And that I realized was a fear that never came to be. But my running group, the one I was talking about, they would come by and they'd come run by, and I would sit in my wheelchair on the front porch and just wave at them. And so they would do their run, and then they would come back, and they would do the square, the little block with me in my wheelchair. And, they never cried, and I never cried in those moments. And I think it's because all of us knew, I'll be back. This isn't the end. This is where the story ends. I'm going to be back. But that was hard to see them go and do.
And I hated asking people for help. I have never been really good at that, but I hated that. But I think I felt like a burden. But then, to be able, when I can help somebody, like, that feels amazing. I want to pour in. And my boys it's not a burden for them to help me, but it's giving them a part in just this beautiful legacy that's going to be built for our family. So
we were involved in an accident that was not as severe. In September, someone hit us and totaled our car. And I remember thinking 5 things before it happened. I mean, the seconds before it happened. And then I remember just being very angry.
Right.
Because it was senseless. Like, the person made a mistake.
Right.
And it was costing my family things. And the cost to you and your family, I mean,
right,
astronomical.
Yes.
I guess I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say, were you angry?
It goes back to that piece with beyond understanding. I legitimately was never angry. I was disappointed for sure, but I was never angry. And I think that for me, the state had a case because she was already active within the system. So it wasn't anything that like we filed or we did, but the state had a case, and I wanted to make sure, I wanted her to be held accountable, not from a vengeful standpoint, but from, if we're not getting something, like, there continues to be consequences. And like, if I do something, my actions will affect you,
right.
Not just my family, like my family will affect you. But as we got close to that date, I was very apprehensive about it because I didn't know how I would feel. Like, how would it feel to face her? How would it feel, because I had to speak and get up and speak, and like to have a role in whatever the outcome was. Like, would I feel bad? Would I feel guilty? There was just a lot that I didn't know. I've always wanted jury duty. I've never had jury duty. Like, that whole thing was just so different for me. But so I did. I stood up and I faced her, and this was September 11th. So well after the accident. And I mean, of course, I'd like read my statement. I mean, of course, I cried, but it was important to me that she know that I have been forgiven. And because of that, I can in turn forgive her. And it's heartbreaking. And, the aftermath kind of continues to play out in our family. But ultimately, she made a mistake. And I make mistakes. Not the same, but I just have never been mad at her. I don't know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is it... I should have confirmed this before we started talking. Is it true that you served this woman a meal at some point prior to all of this?
So my husband and I have had that discussion a lot. In the hospital, she looked when we saw the photos, she looked very familiar to me. And we love to volunteer. We especially do at Christmas. And so we both, like, there's this familiarity that we can't place.
Okay.
But if not her, then there was someone similar on Christmas Eve that we served near Stanley's with one of the ministries there. So, I mean, we wouldn't know without asking her, right. But that's a strong possibility of like where maybe we know her from, or just somebody that looks like her.
Okay. Have you found the act of forgiveness to be, I can come to the realization that you just expressed and it's kind of done, or is it something that that has to be ongoing, like as you have a bad day or as another thought enters your mind, where it has to be a continual offering of, I was forgiven, I'm going to forgive?
For me, it's a doneness because there were so many loose ends, like, how am I going to get a leg? How are my kids going to get? There were a lot of questions, a lot of openings, a lot of loose ends, and so to be able to tie one up, to be able to close a door, close a tab, was a big help to me in being able to move forward. And I really looked forward to, I hated that court date was so far out, and it eventually got moved several times, but like I just needed it to happen because I needed to be done. I needed to turn the page and be done with that chapter. Yeah. And so leaving court that day, it was, felt like a ton of weight off my shoulders because we could close the door. We were done. That was done. And so it hasn't been a second thought, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, they say, whoever they is, that forgiveness frees you up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In probably one of our first exchanges when I'd ask you to come on, you said something, I don't have it pulled up, but it is essentially that coping, you've learned a lot about coping, that right. Society kind of has a way that it seems to say that it should look, and that it looks anything but that. Right. Would you describe like what you've learned or what the other side of that process has been for you?
In the beginning, after the accident, I kind of developed this curiosity for hearing people's story, especially around April, May, where, I could, even before I had a leg, at least I was on crutches, could kind of get out and go to lunch. And I loved hearing people's stories because all of us are going to have a hard. If you haven't had it, it's coming. We know that biblically that life is going to be hard, but also again, the choices people make affect all of us. And so initially a lot of people I think told me like trauma changes you. And I pushed back against that. I was like, absolutely not. Like, I love who I am. And I think I just felt like it was a negative connotation, like trauma changes you negatively. But it changes you, I think, positively. It doesn't have to be negative. I think my priorities have shifted some. I think I was pouring in too much into some relationships and not enough into others. My time, my family, even like my pain, like all of those are precious commodities. And so I want to use them well. And so once I kind of accepted that trauma changes you, like I was able to lean more into moving forward. But I think 3 things as far as coping, one was my faith, but hear me when I say it was a very much rubber meets the road for me. I felt like after the accident, I felt like the Lord was so quiet, and it was just kind of one of those times where you're like, is this truly what I believe? Is this what I know to be true? Which it is. But so I think my faith helped me cope. This community is, they blew me away. They blew us away. Like it just tears me up to think about it, but like how amazing people were, like people that knew us, people that didn't know us, but knowing that people were praying, knowing that people cared, and that, they wanted to help in any way, whether it was bringing a meal, watching the boys, praying, sending me a book, sending a card. It made me feel more comfortable to cope because the town knew me. I wasn't trying to hide this injury. They all knew it. And their love made me feel like there's the potential to be very self-conscious, especially as a female. But once I could go out in public, like I was okay doing it because every time I turned around, there was somebody that was in my corner. And so the community support was definitely huge in coping. And then normalcy, like I crave normalcy, like going back to unloading the dishwasher, like anything that I could reclaim that I had done before just was like another step up toward coping. Anything that I could do independently or just like was so typical. Like, initially when I came home, I think my boys kind of like treated me like very fragile, but like the first time that my eldest kind of like sassed back at me, I was like, okay, I'm back. Right. Things are normal. And so I think my faith in this community and that normalcy were the 3 tools I use to move forward. Now, I will say EDMR therapy like changed my life. Like I can sit here and talk about it because of that. I had a therapist that I met virtually from March through July, and just the progress we were able to make through that was amazing. So,
and you could do EMDR virtually?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. You referenced, I think, the phrase, if not, I'm going to pull it out, but a dark night of the soul. And I don't know if you've said that or anyway, in remaining true to your faith and kind of processing through, God, I know that you're present, but it seems very quiet right now. Were there hard parts of that? Clinging is not the word I want to use, but maintaining or leaning into that. Like what were the hard parts of doing that when it just seemed so quiet?
So it was definitely one of the number one prayer requests if like people ask how they prayed. And one thing that no one told me about in the hospital, it really wasn't until my Instagram friends, was phantom pain. Like nobody set me up for that. And I already wasn't sleeping at night, but that phantom pain, it was terrible. It was so painful. It was relentless. And it just felt like adding insult to injury. Like there's nothing you can do.
And it's constant.
Right. In the beginning, it was constant. Like it's gone. There's nothing you could do. But research shows that if you lose your leg traumatically, there's more phantom pain than planned for. And it's true because I would always feel the phantom pain like in the bottom of my foot and my heel. And those were the most affected parts. And so that is when I would be like, Lord, are you kidding me? Like
on
how?
Top of
like
everything.
what? Right? Like it's on my list. It's on my heaven list. Like why is this a thing? But so it was something that I prayed for. But the people in this community lent me their faith when I needed something. They lent me their joy. Like my soccer team, we were doing so good, and going back to normalcy, I was like, I've got to go back. And at first it was like, oh, you really can't, you're on FMLA. But we worked it out, and my soccer girls, like they lent me their joy until I could find my own, like people in this community did. And so I think in that darkness, in that hard time, there was always somebody that I could text, or that would text me, just knowing, and just having that connection went a big way. And at 5 weeks, one night I was praying about the phantom pain. And I mean, I'm telling you, I traveled with a floor length mirror like between my legs, because when you look at your leg in the mirror, your brain sees your other leg. And so it kind of like compensates for like that pain. And I just was praying like, Lord, when is this going to stop? Like, when is this going to let up? Because this is the worst part. And I distinctly remember just feeling him say soon. And sure enough, it did. And so that was really the turning point for me, where I was like, hey bud, like, been missing you, welcome back. But yeah, it was the community for sure.
I was going to ask, and it sounds like I know the answer, but I mean, how long after the accident was the 5K? A month, 6 weeks?
So the 5K was actually in August. It was like 6 months. So, but originally they had wanted to do it in March or August.
Okay.
And I didn't have a lot to do with it. Every now and then they'd say like, what's your favorite color? Or, like, do you care if there's strollers kind of thing? But originally when they called and said that, I was like, no, like, that's not fair. Like, if there's going to be a 5K, I want to at least be able to walk across the finish line. Even if I don't walk the whole 5K, can you wait till I have a leg?
Right. But
then the leg didn't come until, late May. And so you're supposed to warm up to wearing it. I absolutely did not. I wore it the whole day the next day at the state track meet. And then I went back to school for the last week of school and just hobbled around. But they were like, well, this is going to lead us into hot summer. And I was like, well, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to do hot summer because it has to be before cross country kicks into gear. But I just thought it's going to be my soccer team, or a few of my students. I never, ever, ever dreamed what it was. But yes, it was in August.
Was there any part of that was hard to be the center of attention?
100%. Not my favorite. I'll be your assistant to anything. I'll be your second in command to anything. I just had no idea. And as we were pulling up, I was like, Josh, I can't get out of the truck. He was like, I was like, maybe nobody will notice that I'm here. He was like, Hannah, that's not wise.
Right.
Everyone's going to know you're here. But I had been training with rock physical therapy to be able to walk it. And, a few people have been like, we'll walk it with you. And so I ultimately said, like, if you've been meeting me at 4:30 in the morning for the last 7 years, you can walk with.
Yeah.
So my running group walked it with, but luckily I kind of tucked under the timing tent to begin with. And because those guys are good friends of mine. And so, like, you know, runners typically won't go under the timing tent.
Right.
Like, that's kind of off limits. So then when it started, we jumped in, and by the time I came back, you know, it took me almost an hour. So, you know, a good amount of people had left. And so it was doable because I just didn't pay attention until afterward, like looking at the photos or looking at the videos or like the number of people that had registered. But it was so beautiful. I imagine that heaven, like walking into heaven, you just walk down this path, and everybody that you know, everybody that you've met, that you've seen, you've talked to, like they're all there cheering you on. And so I told the organizers, like, I just feel like this race is the closest thing to heaven I'll ever get, because people from like my job, like, you know, Rome Strength and Fitness, ESP, like my church friends, my regular friends, all these circles were there, like every piece. And so, like, coming to that finish line, like seeing like that's heaven, like that's what heaven's going to be like. And it was also good too, that because there have been plenty of people that are like, I would never run unless something was chasing me, and like they showed up, you know, like they but so it was really beautiful, and it is something I will never ever forget.
Are there, so, you know, for better or worse, when you open yourself up to a bunch of people,
right,
you're going to get a lot of things from people.
Yes.
Have there been things that, whether well-intentioned or not, that were said where you're just like, really?
Yes.
That's hard.
And that is something, you know, going to lunch with people, I'm like, but did this happen? And they're like, yes. And so I think that when hard things happen, it's 100% okay to be like, hey, I heard about this, you know, that's terrible, but like, I'm praying for you. Or even just say like, hey, you know, we care about you. Like, you don't have to say anything. You know, like one person said, you know, like, when I heard about it, I just knew, like, of course it was going to be you. Of course it was going to be me. And there, you know, because you're so strong, but like, you just knew that something bad was going to happen to me. Right. Or just some of the cliche phrases that we have heard or that have come to be, again, all well-meaning, but like, even down to like, you know, I'm so sorry about the accident, but I'm so glad you're okay. But am I? Because,
right.
You know, like,
let's define okay.
Yeah. And I think part of that too is being on this side. Like, I did for sure go through the cynical phase of life where we would be like riding in the car and I would see somebody with 2 legs and they like would like jut out in front of traffic. And I'd be like, what? You have 2 legs and you're going to, you know, I for sure went through a cynical phase where like I was just kind of like moody broody about it. So those kind of well wishes that landed then were unfortunately, but I mean, I never, you know, I was always just like, thank you. But it was like something I went home and I was like, oh my gosh.
Someone said that you were very organized. And I'm curious, in recovery, has the organization allowed you to kind of create a system that's helpful, or have you found that grief and healing is going to do what it does and you have to be flexible and play catch up?
It's definitely a do what it does. There are a lot of days where I'm like, oh, I'm like, this door is closed. Like, I'm past this. But like just this week, you know, it was hot on Sunday and it was freezing on Monday. So, we just moved, praise the Lord. And I had to go dig out my winter running gear because, I have a running coach now. We'll get to that in a minute, but I had to work out to do that morning. And so the first thing I pulled out of that box, cause I hadn't packed, like flipped my closet. Like people had done that for me. First thing I pulled out of the box was the exact thing I had on that morning when I went to that run. And I just sat down and cried. Like, it just wrecked me because it was like I wore this and didn't know that would be the last regular run. Or, you know, like you see like a sweater hanging and you're like, I wore that and had no idea like my life was fixing to change. And so it's just things that like will sneak up on you. I've never been a crier and I have had to 100% adjust to that. I think part of it is good. Like I think it's softened kind of like this harder outer core for me, but, even that has been adjustment and I have no idea what's going to make me cry. It's, just a super fun surprise. But it is typically like the kindness of others in this will always get me. But anything that is just grief or trauma related will typically get me. And so when that happened, I reached out to two friends whose heart were very different, but I felt like, maybe this is, and they both were like, yes, like that's normal. Like that is okay. And this is what we did. And that's what I needed. I need somebody to say like that piece of grief is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you found that you can, because running has been historically like so therapeutic, right. Can you focus on the physical aspects of recovery? Is there a spillover to where that alleviates or helps emotionally and mentally, or do you have to like deal with each box?
Oh, no, it's a spillover. The first time I could put my shoes on and walk around the neighborhood, I was just like, this is beautiful. And it was the summer, and I went to cross country practice the next day, and we're like, okay, this is the workout. And then when you come back, like we're going to do these strides. And, some of them were like, ugh. And it took all I had not to be like, listen, please. You don't understand what a lesson is. But it is, and it's hard. Like it's not easy. I mean, I was still using, the first time I came back to X4, I was using arm crutches. Like I was still using them, up until like mid-July. So, it is an adjustment. It's a totally different gait for everything, but it is amazing to have an outlet, because another cruelty, but even besides phantom pain, is that my body, like if I did fall asleep, I woke up at 4:30 because my body was like, oh, it's time to go run. And I can't run. I can't sleep. Like I still have stitches. And so that would just break me because my body was like, well, this is time. And it wasn't. So it's nice to have that back.
How natural has it been to if you take the tenacity and endurance that you've built from years and years of running, right. For that to be able to naturally apply that? Has it been natural, or are you having to kind of overtly say like, oh, I'm capable and skilled at this set of mental things, and I can apply it to this situation?
I think part of it comes naturally because I'm a distance runner, and distance runners are in it for the long haul. So we're chasing something that we're not going to get to quickly. And we are comfortable with being uncomfortable for longer amounts of time. And so I think that running mindset has helped in this part too, because all of the goals I set are long goals, and I have to be uncomfortable to be able to get them, whether I'm uncomfortable like emotionally or physically. And I just think that running, I kind of built this like pushing myself or pushing through the hard. And so it just applies to coping as well.
Is there anything that's, because there's a lot of things. What are things that stand out that have surprised you? Like once you're kind of in earnest and adapting to reality, what are things good and bad that have surprised you about the process?
I had no idea about the process. So I was surprised that I thought for sure I'd just put my prosthetic leg on and just go. And that was not the case. Not at all. And so that, was surprising to me. But in this first year, it's figuring out like how do I get in the car, or like at school, like how do I bend down on the student's level. My new favorite right now currently is a shoehorn from Harbor Freight. So don't come with your little plastic shoehorn
right.
like this is, but I mean, it is such a game changer for me in putting shoes on, because winter shoes have backs, like summer shoes, sandals, like they didn't, but, and so just like every time you hit something and you're like, okay, I got to figure out how to problem solve this. But I had gotten my second leg in July, and it had a slit between the toes, so I could wear like thong sandals, and it had like this it has this piece at the bottom, and you put the other piece on a sandal, and essentially it like screws the sandal to the foot, so you can wear things that don't have backs. And like, wow, that was like mind blowing. I hope the inventor of that is like on a vacation on an island that he owns somewhere, because incredible. But every step is new. And, Jen and Jared both, I have been like, how do I do this? Or what do you suggest about this? And so the whole thing is an adjustment, because it's just different. I mean, even to this week, I was telling Corey, like, I can't figure out how to do this one thing because I don't have an ankle. So how do we adjust that? So.
maybe putting a percentage on it isn't fair, but how much of the work would you say is external problem solving versus inner work where like this thing has undone you and you've got to sort yourself back out?
I mean, I think for a long time it was 50-50. But now that, we kind of addressed the emotional, the mental, spiritual, like kind of right out of the gate. And of course, spiritual will be forever long, but I think it's become more physical now, because the good thing about not being able to get a leg for a long time, and then when you do an adjustment, like in that downtime, it forces you to adjust the things that you can do, address the things that you can't address. And I think it prepares you. I was talking to somebody this week and he was like, a lot of like, as far as prosthetics and activity and active and where you go, he's like, it's just as much between your ears as it is below your knee. Like you have to be able to address those things first, because I also learned a lot about, and not just me, but my whole family, but like the way trauma can manifest physically, like physical symptoms or things that happen to your body because of trauma. And so I have also made a big effort to like take care of my body. Like this is the only one I get. And part of that is because I have to work so much harder to do things, and expend so much more energy. And, I want to be, in the hospital when we were getting ready for surgery, one of the things they said was like, we can, if we go in, there's a possibility that, if we can try to save it, it'll be several more surgeries. You'll need a skin graft from here and here and this. But, maybe 2 years from now, you might be in a place where you can stand with a cane for up to 1 minute. And I was like, what kind of life is that? Yeah. Like I have 2 boys now, but like, I want to be the grandparent that also runs the 5K with her grandson. Like I want to be able to be active. And so I think that too is like, I've got to take care of myself holistically to be able to make it.
What is running? So what's running look like for you presently?
So I got my running blade about 4 weeks ago because of this community. Insurance, my state health insurance doesn't cover it at all. And so they, the one I have was, more than $30,000. So it's very, very personal to me. Like take a lot of care of it, my own child. But I wanted, coming out of surgery, I came back, realized my leg was gone, and I was like, told Mom, I was like, I want to run a marathon. And Mom's like, okay, like the Nike women's you've done before, or Nashville. I was like, no, bigger. And she was like, oh, like the one here in Chattanooga. I was like, no, I want to run Boston, because Jamie and I, one of the ones in group, we had qualified in 2019. Okay. But so many people qualified that year, they ended up backing the qualifying time up, and we missed it by 13 seconds. I was like, oh my gosh. And so I set that as a goal. And so then I got this running blade, and, Jared that I've mentioned before, he like knew somebody that knew somebody, and eventually got me in touch with the Born to Run Foundation, and Boston, which I didn't realize, charities can apply, and Boston will give certain charities a certain amount of bibs. Okay. So then the charities can then use those bibs as fundraisers, right? Like if you want this bib, then you can raise this much money, or, gift amount. And so they gave me a bib, and I was like, okay, like we're doing this. Now I don't know anyone else that's doing it. I'm going to make a lot of friends, lots of friends over 26 miles. But I didn't trust myself could I do my training plan? 100%. But I didn't trust myself not to like question myself, be like, you put 4 today, but did you mean 8? Right. But I don't want to set myself back, because there are so many, like you have to pay attention to like your skin condition, like blisters, like, bone spurs, like nerves, all this stuff. And so I was like, I need somebody else to do this. And preferably someone I don't know, so I can talk bad about them behind their back when I don't love the workout. And so what I did, I went straight back to Instagram, kind of went down this tunnel, found this lady. I reached out to her, and she actually was the Paralympian coach for the Rio Olympics. And then she retired, and she was like, yes, like I'd love to do that. She also works with Paralympic triathlons. And I was like, I don't know that that's my vibe, but, and so she is writing my running plan, and which is good because she knows it, and so can start me off where I need to be. And so initially she was like, okay, today's plan is to run for 3 minutes. And I was like, oh my gosh, 3 minutes. Right. Okay. Those were the hardest 3 minutes of my lifetime. And so it has been minutes. Nobody's running by miles. Yeah. Nobody's running by pace. It's been like, can I run for X amount of time? So I was told that it will come back quickly, and which I needed to, because I mean, taking that leg to physical therapy, like I just got so upset because I've never been this far behind, not even after kids. And I went back to X4 in May, and like I did swim this summer, and I've been walking and wheelchair, and I just thought for sure like this is going to translate.
Right.
But it doesn't. I mean, it does in some sense, but not completely. So those were hard runs. Like you don't see it on the highlight reel, but those were hard runs. And so, but it has, and I like haven't, I mean, this is probably the first place that I've like talked about running, but, so this morning I did my workout, and, it ended up being 4.5 miles. And so, it's crazy to think that, 4 weeks ago, I was like, all right, go team, we got to be able to run for 5 minutes. But it is true. Like your muscle memory starts to come back, and, it does get easier. And now will I get second at the turkey trot again this year? Absolutely not. Like I'm not fast. And that's an adjustment to me too. But Boston is not going to be about time for me. It's going to be about finishing it and proving like, just because I lost my leg doesn't mean that I have to stop doing what I love or pursuing something that's important to me. So, so we're getting there. Yeah. It's a slow process, but we're getting there. And, my running group has been great. I'm like, guys, you don't want to be this slow. Like, don't hang out. And they're like, no, we're going to be here. We're going to do this. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't know if this question fits here or not, but I'm curious. And I don't even know if it's a fair question, but I'm going to ask. Hearing a lot of your story and hearing that wherever it came from, this optimism is baked into you, and glass half full, and a background of running, and then a lot of community support and people around you. How would you encourage people that hear this and they say, that's great, and I don't want to take anything away from her, but no one knows my thing. Right. No one knows my heart, and I'm just here wishing someone knew, wishing someone would call me, and they're just kind of grasping at straws for like trying to summon whatever inner strength they have, and maybe feeling beat down. Like what would you offer to them to say, try this?
I love being around people. I love volunteering. I love staying busy. I love a full like social calendar. And so, I think the way you meet people is to get out and meet people. So step one, like if you don't have a community, start to find one. Like even if you have to start small with one person, your neighbor, or, go to church and like kind of get that springboard and meet that community. But the community is not going to come and knock on your door. Like part of it is putting yourself out there, which is hard. I mean, don't get me wrong. And stretching outside your comfort zone is difficult, but first of all, like you've got to be in the community to be a part of the community. Second, it is a choice. It's a choice, and it's still a choice for me. Like I'm going to wake up and I am going to choose to see it half full. I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to choose to not let the fact that I can't figure out how to put on a winter boot ruin my day. Like I'm going to choose this. And so it's not something that just like naturally flows. It's a choice. And of course, faith, nothing, comes above faith, but you have to be willing to be uncomfortable and do the work in order to get there. Like it's, you have to be willing to move forward. You have to make that choice. I see people, we went to Universal for fall break. We had planned to go, last spring, but obviously it didn't come. So we had just moved it, but, and I saw this girl, amputee, and of course I don't know her story. It could be very different, but I just very much wanted to go over and just shake her and be like, get out of your wheelchair. Like you can do this. Yeah. Like put your leg on, which I hear that a lot of people like don't love to wear their leg, and everybody's story is different. And, trauma is a very small amount of amputees. And then of course, congenital disorders are like even smaller than that. A lot of it is a diabetic community. And so everybody's story is different, but like give yourself more credit. Like we always say, like you're stronger than you think, but like literally you are, but you have to be forced. You have to be forced into having to accept that for yourself. Like we don't just, I wouldn't be like, oh, I can handle any trauma,
right,
because
right.
like I had to be forced into that and adjust to that. So get out there, meet somebody, talk to somebody, do something.
And then coming back to faith for just a minute, Romans says that God works all things together for the good of those who love him. And I think sometimes people twist that just a little as if God planned everything that happens to us.
Right. Right.
Which is not the case.
No.
But what have you seen? What are good things that you've seen just even this many months?
Well, I'll say in the beginning, I learned like why is not going to make a difference. Like even if somebody would be like, oh, this is why it happened. Still happened. Still missing a leg.
Yeah.
So don't give time to why. I think relational, like I think the shift, like you realize how valuable things are. Like there are some things that are just not as important to me now as they were. There are some things that are more important. There are some relationships that have been restored. There have some that have grown. I think my children have been exposed to something they wouldn't have otherwise. Being comfortable in that community. I have grown a lot. I have kind of had to grow up in a sense. Well, I'm already grown up, but you know what I mean? I had to get, and I've, the amputee community is large, but it's also small, and nobody wants to be a part of this group, but they are an amazing group of people. And it just was something I had no reference point. Like I didn't know, but I will not miss an opportunity to change something for the better or to help somebody with something. I want to change things. I want to change things for the better. My life, others' lives, like the community, like I want to be involved in that. I just like social action, making things right. I just am very driven to kind of change the narrative in some places.
Very good. Well, I'll give you the last word. Parting words, or you were sharing some things with me before we started in terms of advocacy.
Oh, okay. Yes. So there is a movement, it's nationwide, and it kind of started last year, but it's called the So Everybody Can Move movement. And it's asking lawmakers to pass that insurances have to begin to pay, or at least part of, an active leg and a shower leg for amputees. Because if you think about it, like we have shower wheelchairs, there's all kinds of medical equipment. And so like, we're just asking to be able to stand up and take a shower. And, you and I both know, like being active and having exercise, like that is something to promote being healthy, to promote maybe needing insurance less. And so it passed last spring in March for private and commercial insurances. Okay. But state health is not a private and commercial insurance. It's self-insured. And so we are the group is going back. I say we because I jumped in on board with them this spring, and to fight that state health offer that same thing. And so they asked me if I'd be a part of it. And I was like, absolutely, yes. Like whatever you need, like I want to be a part of that. So if you know a legislator or someone at that level, like just asking them, to be able to extend us this freedom would be amazing. And, I'm going to jump in and do the Boston Marathon. I want to do all the things. I want to cross the Green Canyon. Nice. I want to do a triathlon. Like I want to do everything. And I think it comes from a place of like, I've spent all these years as a special education teacher being like, your disability doesn't have to hold you back. Like you can still do it. It's just gonna be different. Like I had to believe that for myself, and like now I do. And I want to be able to show others like, yes, this is true. You can still do it. You can still do all the things. And in my early days at Rome City in the EBD classroom, that is not always sunshine.
Yeah.
And so I don't even remember what national day started it, but some national day started it. And so I was like, okay, come to realize like every day has at least 3 or 4 national days, if not a national day, like a world day. And so it kind of became my MO. And like, so every day at school, like, you know, before I can even start, the kids are like, what national day is it? What national day? And it always kind of starts with this like trivia, like you kind of have to guess thing. But like, it's, I mean, silly. Like one day this week was Ice Cream Sunday. And like today, of course, is World Kindness Day. But it became from a place of like, there's something to celebrate every day. So like, if you can't find anything, like just look up the national day and do whatever that is. Sometimes it's crazy, you know, and make that choice to something positive. And also like gratitude. I've never been a journaler, but somebody gave me, some close friends gave me like this gratitude journal. And honestly, at the top, it says like, today, these things this is what made me want to punch today in the face.
Nice.
And like, these are the things that made me happy today. And like, I did that. Over, you know, these last 7 months, like that's what I've been doing. And it's beautiful to go back and look, but it also like forces me, like you can't be anxious at the same time that you're grateful. So if something is frustrating or upsetting to me, like that is my kind of go-to right now is like, okay, what am I thankful for right now? Like pay attention to that. So, just be grateful and be happy.
Cool. That's a good place to end it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And if there were a larger platform, shout it to the rooftops. Like, Rome, like there's some tough spots, but as a whole, like Rome is beautiful and caring, and they take care of their own, and we will be paying it forward forever and always, and can never put into words like what this community has meant to us over the last several months.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being here and for being willing to share.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's that. That's our conversation. I really enjoyed our talk, and it challenged me in several ways, and I'll share one here. I really appreciate Hannah's ability, and I'm not saying that it comes easily, but her ability to make a decision definitively and then move wholeheartedly in the direction of that decision day in and day out, knowing that some days that's going to come easy or easier, and some days it's going to be excruciatingly difficult to make good on that. It's encouraging for me to hear her process and share how she faces challenges, and it's encouraging for me to see how far it's gotten her in just 9 months since the accident. I named this episode From Tragedy to Triumph because it seems a fitting description for what Hannah is doing, what she has done, and what I know she will continue to do as she pursues a new set of dreams. I imagine that Hannah will take this singular tragedy and turn it into triumph after triumph after triumph, inspiring people along the way. I'd love to hear what you think. What resonated, what encouraged you about the story, what questions you have that I didn't ask. And if you have a message you'd like me to pass along to Hannah, I'd love for you to send it my way as well. I'll make sure it gets to her. But let's make this a conversation. Let me know what you think. You can send me an email to everydaygritpodcast@gmail.com. You can send me a message on Instagram at everydaygritpodcast or at NJHIX. Any of those things will work. Hannah and I talked after we stopped recording about her desire to go on the reckoning early next year. And I can't help but think if Hannah is interested, then probably there are some of you that are interested as well. So if you are, or if you're curious, you have questions about what the reckoning is, we're looking at a window of late January, February, early March to do a standard and a starter edition, and I would love to fill them up. So if you're curious about what the reckoning is, if you know you want to sign up, if you have questions, get in touch with me at the email that I just gave, and I'll be happy to share more information. If you like this podcast, do me a favor and spread the word to other people that you think might enjoy it. Jump over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Do all the things. I really appreciate it. Hey, thank you all for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great day and carry on.